Hi, this is Lady Lex UK and this is another tutorial for Project Spark. Now I've had a request a few weeks back now to help someone with stress mechanics. They were hoping to be making something similar to Darkest Dungeon in Project Spark and wanted to know if they could help them create a stress mechanic. And I apologise that I haven't got back to him with anything, but I've had an awful lot on and this is really the time that I've had a chance to actually look at it in any detail. Now, I've never played Darkest Dungeon, but from what I understand about it, it's a sort of cross, it's a PC game. It's sort of a cross between a card game and then a text adventure and a Dungeons and Dragons type thing, sort of rolling of dice and probabilities and strategy and that sort of thing. So I'm going to assume, rightly or wrongly, that if you're making a game like that in Project Spark, you're going to utilise the fact that we have characters who can attack characters in real time and real life and wield swords about, rather than doing it all with little cutouts and pictures. That doesn't mean to say this stress mechanic won't work with that type of game, but there are certain things that Project Spark has got that a text adventure wouldn't have, such as detection zones, actual walking about, physically attacking other creatures and that sort of thing. But having said that, everything that I'm going to show you here could be applied to a text adventure just as easily if that was what you were trying to make. So let me first of all show you what I mean by stress. So here we have three characters. We have our player here, which is this guy here. I'll jump up and down. There we are. And our two followers here, who are part of our party. And over there is a load of enemies, and I've also got a patch of white snow over there, and I'll explain that in a minute. Now, on the left hand side of the screen you can see two meters. One of them is the red one, which you're probably all familiar with. That's our health bar, and the one below it, which is yellow, and that is our stress. Now I've set it artificially at 50 to start with, and you can see there's a number 50 above our player's head, while our two followers here have got stress of 0 each above their heads. Now this is part of a debug situation. You don't necessarily have to have the number above their heads. This just makes it easier for me to see the stress mechanics actually working. So let's walk towards these enemies and see what happens. So I'm going to walk over there, and my followers immediately are going in and they're attacking those goblins, and you can see their stress levels are going up. First of all, they've gone up by 20 points immediately because they've started attacking these goblins, and also they're standing in this white area, which is adding stress to them. So if I move my player into that stress area, there we go, there we are, you can see immediately stress is being added to my player. Now you'll also see my player's now got a stress level of 61. What happened? Well, one of the followers died. Now another one's died, and my stress has gone up to 71. Right, so I'm going to attack these goblins, and immediately my stress has gone right through the roof, and my player is now cowering. He's scared and he's getting attacked by these goblins, and my health is rapidly going down. I can still attack, but I'm pretty much rooted to the spot with fear, and now I am dead. Obviously you're going to need a respawn mechanic if you're going to use that. Right, so what happened there? What was going on there? Well, I've created a number variable called stress, and if I go into my player, let's just remove that, then we'll say stress equals 50. That's set my starting stress level, and we're going to add a brain called player stress. That's where all the code for my player stress is. And we're also going to add him to a global party. So all of my characters, all my follower characters and myself are in a global party. So there's no other code other than the meter. So we'll display our meter in yellow with a maximum of 100 at the top there. And if you like, you could clamp our stress level so that you couldn't get higher than 100, but I haven't done that, but it's easy to do. Right, in our player stress brain, this is the brain we're going to add. We have got, when stress is greater than 80 or above, then madness equals true. Otherwise, madness equals false. When madness is true, we're going to cower emote. And every frame, our health is going to be decremented by 0.01. So it's going to go down and down and down. So you saw that in action. Once my player got so stressed, he couldn't do anything other than stand and cower and punch a few goblins while we did the spot. He couldn't run away, he couldn't do anything. And as a result, he ended up dying. Obviously, depending on what your game is, you might want to change what that stress mechanic does. And we do this by setting various booleans. Now, a boolean variable is an on or off situation, a true or false. So when our stress level reached 80, we turned that madness boolean on, and then with the madness boolean on, we knew what that happened to the player. And we do this for lots of different booleans that we can set in our player, and they will do different things. So we have one here called battle stress. So when battle stress is true, at the beginning, as soon as that battle stress boolean is set, we're going to add 20 points to our stress level. So it's not a continuous thing. It's not like you're in a battle situation and it's incrementing like we did for being in that dodgy area. This is just a one-off. As soon as you attack your player for the first time, then it's going to add some stress to you. And it says here, when not attacking, after a countdown timer of 10 seconds, then battle stress equals false. So what would happen there is, after you'd finished attacking all your goblins, if you didn't attack them for 10 seconds, battle stress would be turned off. But then if you went and attacked another goblin, battle stress would be turned back on again. And again, you would get another 20 points of stress added to your character. Even if it's in the same battle, if you'd stopped fighting and calmed right down, then the stress would be added next time you went back into the fray. Now, I haven't added any stress minuses to this brain. This is all adding stress to the player. Obviously, you can do it in reverse. So after it says countdown timer 10, battle stress equals false, and you could then reduce the stress down. You could add something in here like when started to stress is a stress minus 5. Okay, so he has stress of 20 when he's fighting, and then as soon as he stops, it goes back down by 5 because he's stopped. So you could do that. Then we've got a boolean here called too dark. So if that boolean is set, it then looks for another boolean to say, have you got fear of the dark enabled? So if this character has got a specific boolean that says I am afraid of the dark, then you could add 10 stress to that player as soon as he walks into a dark room. Otherwise, everybody else just gets a stress of 5. If they're under constant stress, then you will increment our stress variable by this small number every frame. And here we have when the player bumps the area which is white, then we're saying we're in a stress area. When no longer, then we are no longer in a stress area. So that's what the player code is doing. And over here we have a stress cube, and this is saying what sets those booleans off. So we're looking at the global party. So when the global party count is decreased, for each of that global party, we're going to stress them by 10. So every time a member of that party dies, then everybody else in the party will get stressed by 10. And here, if the light level is less than or equal to 5, then we'll say it's too dark. And we'll set that too dark variable in all of the global party if their light level gets set to less than 5. Otherwise, it's false. If they are attacking, then we're under battle stress, and we already saw what happens when battle stress is set. Then for each of the global party, if they are in the stress area, we're going to say constant stress is true. Otherwise, constant stress is false. So what you do is you place all of your rules for stress in here and all of the effects on the player in there. And then you just add that to your player brain. Now, I haven't added it to the followers' brains because I've just added it to the player, but you could add it to these as well. In these players' brains, what I've got is when started to be is dead, we're going to remove them from the global party. And there we go, I've added the player stress brain to this character. And that's it, otherwise it's just a normal follower brain. So you can see there are lots of ways that you can implement stress upon your character, and it can do various things. I mean, I've set it up so that when it gets to a certain stress level, he emotes. You could change that so you can add a whole new brain in. Maybe you have a madness brain, so maybe your player may look completely different. Maybe when he's mad, he grows horns. I don't know. There's all sorts of things you could do which would change your game up and make it more interesting. And there's lots of things that you can add, lots of booleans you can add, which will affect your player's stress levels. Like I say, I've only put in stress ones that increase the stress, but there might be things that will decrease the stress. Maybe one of your followers is a medic and they can detect you and heal you and reduce your stress. Maybe there are potions that can reduce your stress. Maybe there are areas of light or something like that you can walk into. So here, this one's a stress area, but you could just as easily set one up to be a de-stress area in exactly the same way. Now, the reason that I've used a paint is because I can actually have an area of any shape I like and any size I want by using this method. Otherwise, you're using things like detect zones, or you're using trigger zones, etc., and they have a limited area based on objects and character position. But with this, you can have it as large or small as an area as you like. So this was quite a lucky find for me, because I hadn't actually considered using paint as an option for detection zones. And this is the perfect way of doing a detection zone, in my opinion, and I wish I'd known about it earlier. So there you go. I hope that's of use to you. I mean, stress mechanics can be as complicated or as simple as you like, as long as you understand what a number variable is and what a boolean is, and how the different ways you can add to that number, take away from that number, or increase over time. I mean, I haven't used anything but timers or anything like that, but I mean, there's so many things you can do here. I mean, my tutorial will be so long and so boring, everybody's going to fall asleep. So there you go, stress mechanics. Something very useful to add to your quest games if you want to have something slightly different for your player, and the sky's the limit to your imagination and how you can use it to affect your players in your game. Thanks for watching. Hope that's useful, and keep sparking.